Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about Kamala Harris. She says that riots, looting, and shooting police is a mark of a real democracy, and she wants it to continue.
Clear that I know that there are protests still happening in
Yes.
major cities across the United States. I'm just not seeing the reporting on it that I
Right,
had
that's right.
for the first few weeks.
That's right. But they're not
now-
going to stop. They're not going to stop. And they're not, this is a movement, I'm telling you. They're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up, and they should not. And we should not.
This graph shows the Google Trends for the term Black Lives Matter. Every 4 years, right before the election, Democrats like to pretend that they care about black lives because they're depending on black votes. They go out on the streets of their nice, safe suburban communities with signs saying white silence equals compliance and Black Lives Matter. This looks like a typical scene from Boulder, Colorado, where I used to live. They have probably the least diverse population I've ever seen. Now let's look at what these protests have accomplished for the black community. Chicago has had 3,140 shootings so far this year, with 534 shot and killed, 2,606 shot and wounded, and 585 total homicides. Almost all of these are black men, women, and children who are being shot by gangs. Now let's compare these statistics to those from the same date last year. As of September 26, shootings are up almost 50% from 2019. BLM protesters have made the police unable to do their job, and now crime is skyrocketing in Democratic-controlled cities. This graph shows the number of people shot in Chicago as of September 26, going back for the last 5 years. Shootings in Chicago dropped off sharply while Donald Trump was president, but protesters have brought them back up to the level they were back when Obama was in office. President Obama started his career in the corrupt political machine of Chicago, but he doesn't live there anymore. Now he lives in a $15 million mansion at sea level in Massachusetts. You can see that he's really worried about both climate change and the plight of people in Chicago. 45 years ago, Malcom X understood what these people were all about. Let's listen to what he had to say.
That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox. And a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to. But the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling. You take him for a friend.
There are many whites who act friendly toward Negroes. A fox acts friendly toward the lamb. And usually the fox is the one who ends up with the lamb chop on his plate. The wolf doesn't act friendly, and therefore the wolf has more difficulty in getting the lamb chop in his plate.
I'd like to point out, though, that...
And I say that because it is usually if you study the structure of the Negro community, economically, politically, civically, psychologically, and otherwise, it's controlled by the white liberal, who usually poses as the friend of the Negro.
on the other hand, I think one could point to a large number of whites who have struggled for civil rights,
Give me
for
an example.
equality, and have got little or nothing out of it, other than quite a few bruises.
Give me an example.
Well, the large number of white students who have gone into the South, for example, working for SNCC and other organizations.
Not working for SNCC or other organizations, but working for the white political machines who benefit by the voting efforts of Negroes.
Okay. Today, you could point to a large number of Negro leaders who have consistently betrayed Negroes in a whole host of areas.
They aren't really Negro leaders. These are puppets that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. These are parrots that have been put in front of the Negro community by white liberals. You can't name me a Negro leader who has been betrayed Negroes, who has not been endorsed, sanctioned, subsidized, and supported by the white liberals.
Malcom X said that the white liberal is the greatest enemy to America and the greatest enemy to the black man. He said in 1965 that the black community would have solved their problems decades ago if they didn't have white liberals interfering. Shootings in Chicago are up almost 50% from last year after declining for the previous 4 years. The BLM protests have been a disaster for both America and for the black community, just like Malcom X said. And Kamala Harris, who would be the actual president if senile Joe Biden was elected, says she wants the mess which is going on in Democratic-controlled cities to continue. Toto thinks that a human would have to be pretty dumb to vote for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, which is why the Democrats are counting on mail fraud to win the election.